The real-life Robin Hood, fact or fiction? Imagine a dense, shadowy forest. The smell of damp earth and pine needles clings to the air. Somewhere in the distance, a branch snaps. A lone traveler freezes, clutching the reins of his horse. He's heard the rumors and tales of an outlaw lurking in Sherwood Forest, a man who robs the rich to feed the poor, a man known as Robin Hood. But did he ever truly exist? For over 700 years, the legend of Robin Hood has fired the imagination of storytellers, historians, and dreamers alike. He's been portrayed as a nobleman, a yeoman, even a former Crusader. He's fought corrupt sheriffs, rescued fair maidens, and matched wits with kings. But beneath the layers of myth and romance, is there a real man hiding in the trees, or is Robin Hood nothing more than a medieval myth, stitched together from fragments of folklore and wishful thinking? To find out, we have to travel back in time, not to a single year, but across centuries of shifting legends and forgotten records. Our story begins not with a hero, but with a poem. The earliest known reference to Robin Hood appears in a 14th century poem called Piers Plowman, where the author mentions, almost in passing, that some people know more of Robin Hood's rhymes than the Lord's Prayer. By then, Robin was already a folk figure, famous enough to be referenced casually, suggesting his story was already widespread by the mid-1300s. But if we dig deeper, things get murkier. The first full stories of Robin Hood emerge in the 15th century, in ballads like Robin Hood and the Monk and Robin Hood and Guy of Gisborne. These aren't polished epics, they're gritty, sometimes violent tales meant for the common folk, often recited by traveling minstrels in alehouses and marketplaces. In these early versions, Robin isn't a nobleman in disguise. He's a yeoman, a free man, but not of noble birth. He's rough around the edges, fiercely loyal to his band of merry men, and entirely unafraid to spill blood when necessary. There's no Maid Marion, no Friar Tuck, no King Richard. Just Robin, his bow, and the forest. So where did the myth come from? Some historians believe the name Robin Hood was originally a generic term for an outlaw, like saying John Doe today. Medieval court records from the 1200s and 1300s mention people called Robert Hood or Ribin Hood, often as aliases used by criminals. In 1225, there's a record of a man named Robert Hood, a fugitive in Yorkshire, whose possessions were confiscated by the sheriff. In the margin of the document, a clerk later added the word Robin Hood. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe that's the first breadcrumb on our trail. The next twist, the shifting political landscape. England in the 12th and 13th centuries was a turbulent place. The Angevin kings Henry II, Richard the Lionheart, and King John oversaw a realm riddled with conflict, rebellion, and crushing taxation. In this chaotic environment, local legends grew like weeds. The story of a man who stood up against greedy sheriffs and corrupt lords might have been less history and more wish fulfillment for peasants with no real power. That's where the Sheriff of Nottingham enters the story. While there's no single historical figure matching his villainous reputation, the position of sheriff was a very real one, and they were notoriously unpopular. Tasked with collecting taxes, enforcing laws, and punishing dissent, sheriffs often acted with impunity. It's not hard to imagine why a story about defying one would spread like wildfire. Then there's the matter of King Richard and Prince John. Modern retellings often cast Robin Hood as a loyalist to Richard the Lionheart, resisting the tyranny of Prince John in his absence. But this detail doesn't appear in the earliest ballads. In fact, those tales make no mention of either king. The association came centuries later, most notably in the 16th century, when writers began romanticizing the Robin Hood legend, turning him into a symbol of chivalry and resistance. By the time of the Tudors, Robin had become almost unrecognizable from his original form. He was now a dispossessed noble, the Earl of Huntingdon, driven to the woods by injustice. He wooed Maid Marion, outwitted Friar Tuck, and stole from the rich to give to the poor. The tales became less about gritty survival and more about moral righteousness. This reinvention wasn't accidental. During the reign of Henry VIII and Elizabeth I, England saw a surge in nationalism and interest in medieval history. Writers and playwrights began to polish old folk stories into heroic narratives that could inspire and entertain. Robin Hood was ripe for reinvention. But despite the layers of fiction, tantalizing clues continue to surface. In Barnsdale, Yorkshire, there's a grave that claims to be Robin Hood's final resting place. It lies in the grounds of Kirklees Priory, and a worn inscription suggests he died there, allegedly betrayed by a prioress who drained his blood under the guise of healing him. The story is grisly and melodramatic, but it appears in several old manuscripts. Yet the grave itself is a mystery. The inscription is barely legible. No records confirm a burial there. Still, it's just plausible enough to keep the legend alive. Then there's the curious case of Roger Godberd, a 13th century outlaw who fought against King Henry III. Godberd hid in Sherwood Forest and was eventually captured and imprisoned. His story bears striking similarities to the Robin Hood myth. He was known to defy the authorities, had a small band of followers, and became a thorn in the side of local lawmen. Some scholars believe Godberd may have inspired aspects of the legend, especially given the timing and location. But the truth remains slippery. Is Robin Hood a single historical figure, or a composite of many? A nobleman wronged by the system, a yeoman who turned bandit, or simply the embodiment of the public's desire for justice in a time when the law served the few? Even his famous motto, "To rob from the rich and give to the poor," is a later invention. Early ballads show him sharing loot with his men or sometimes giving alms to the church, but the idea of a redistributive hero was added later, perhaps shaped by the political ideals of different ages. Each generation crafted a Robin Hood that fit its values. In the Victorian era, he became a gentleman thief. In the 20th century, a freedom fighter. In modern times, a symbol of rebellion against systemic corruption. Like a shadow in the forest, Robin Hood shifts form, always just out of reach. But maybe that's the point. Maybe Robin Hood was never meant to be pinned down by fact, or found in a grave. Maybe his power lies in his mystery and the hope he represents, the idea that justice can be wrested from the jaws of power, that one person, bow in hand, heart on fire, can make a difference. So the next time you hear the wind whispering through the trees, spare a thought for the man who may or may not have walked among them. A hero forged in the space between truth and legend, justice and vengeance. Robin Hood may not have been real in the way we crave him to be, but in the hearts of the people who told his story, who needed his courage and defiance, he was real enough. And maybe that's all he ever needed to be. What do you think? Is the Robin Hood fact or fiction? Or does his character still linger through modern movies of today? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more historical mysteries, right here on Obscura Historia.